everyone, my name is Lena, and in this video I'll be talking about my main topic, which is on the topic of medication safety. Now, in this video on medication safety, I'll be talking about three main parts. The first part is how to read a prescription. Following that is how to avoid errors in the medical setting or healthcare setting. And finally, I'll be going over on the importance of following instructions, both as a healthcare worker and also as the patient who is taking the medication. So let's get started on my first part, which is how to read a prescription. Now, when I am a patient or a physician, I need to look for certain details in a prescription. For example, the patient name and date of birth, the drug name and the strength, the directions, special instructions, for example, take this like daily or after eating, etc., and also the expiration date. Moreover, we should check on the pharmacy info and RX number to maybe get more information or get some refills. So that is how to read a prescription. And we verify this using the 5 rights, which I'll talk about in my second daily edition. Now, what are the 5 rights? Well, the 5 rights is firstly the right patient, the right time, the right route, the right dose, and the right drug. So I'll be talking and elaborating on that in my second DE. Moving on to the next part, how to avoid errors in the medical setting. Well, in the medical setting, there are sometimes errors can happen, and the best we can do is to prevent them from happening. So firstly, I have 5 main ways to prevent and avoid these errors. Firstly is using the exact measuring tools. So for example, if I am measuring fluids and the grams for the patient needs to take, well, I will need to use a scale in order to see how many grams they should take in that medicine. Or if I'm using fluids, then I need to use a tool that is associated with the milliliters, the fluid. So I could use a beaker or some type of container in order to measure that exact amount. That is using the exact measuring tools. The second way I think helps us to avoid errors is turning on the light. Why is turning on the light important for preventing errors? Well, in the dark we can't see numbers very well, so we tend to assume that number is 0.5, for example. But if we get that wrong and we just get a first glance at it, then it can determine the fate of the patient between a cure or a crisis. So that is important why we need to turn on the light so that we can read the prescription and then measure it correctly. And that goes well in hand with using the exact measuring tools. The third way is eliminating medical abbreviations. We need to write it all down clearly so that we don't get mixed up with those abbreviations with something else. And the fourth way is using decimal points accurately. So for example, if I am administering 0.5 grams of medications, but then I use an additional 0 and I forget to check it, then that could be it can be fatal to the patient. If we have 5 grams for the patient, it will be fatal, or 0.05 grams could not do anything, very little effect to the patient. So that is why we need to check for decimal points if we use them accurately. And finally, use one consistent measuring system, which is using the metric system. So in Vietnam, we usually use the metric system. So for example, we use millimeters, milliliters, or centimeters, meters, kilometers, etc. So that is why we need to use one consistent measuring system. and I usually prefer using the metric system. And so finally, the importance of following instructions. Now, for physicians, patient safety is the first goal. Our ultimate goal as physicians is the patient safety. If all goes well, then it is good. But if it doesn't go well, then we need to make it so that the patient is safe. So our ultimate goal is patient safety. Now, for physicians, the importance of following medical instructions is patient safety, optimized outcomes, standardization, consistency, and also continuous education and efficiency. It will also help in efficient resource management. And as for patients, the importance of following clinician instructions is to save money, have fewer risks, personalized care that can go well with their plans and their state as well, and also better healing. So those are some of the importance of following instructions. And I think that physicians should make a checklist for the medical staff. Let me get this back together. So, for example, we need to verify the identity of the patient, review all of their medications, the current medications and the medications that we have given them, documenting allergies if they have any, and then teach back the patients, give a review on what we have said, and then verbal order verification. So that is a checklist for the medical staff that I think that the medical staff should follow. So yeah, those are all the things I have to say for my video on medication safety, and I hope I see you soon. I see you the next week or see you soon. Thank you again for listening to my video, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye.